John chapter 4, verses 3 through 30, the woman at the well, it's a familiar story to a lot of you, and I thought it was to me. But as it turns out, I didn't know all the facts. I've read it, took it at face value, moved on. But there's a couple things that make this encounter between Jesus and the Samaritan woman strange. In that time period, the water well was like the gossip circle or the water cooler at the office for the women of the town. It's where they went to tell all their stories, their news, their secrets, what have you. But the key is they did this early in the morning or late in the evening when the sun wasn't real high and scorching them to death. The odd thing about this story is that it took place around noon when the sun was at its highest and hottest. The Samaritan woman that Jesus talked to chose to go to the well when she knew no one else would be there because of the negative reactions that the other women of the town displayed towards her lifestyle. The second odd thing about this encounter is that in that time period, conversations between men and women weren't as common, or they aren't as common as they are today. But that didn't stop Jesus. He spoke to her like a pal asking his buddy for a drink. He saw nothing unusual about it. And weird thing number 3, Jesus was a Jew, and as I've said before, the woman was a Samaritan. Those two groups most certainly did not mix, which explained the woman's surprise after Jesus asked her to get him a drink. Jesus goes on to explain to the woman that if she knew who he was, she would be asking him for the living water. Now, this woman is totally confused. She's like, man, what are you talking about? You have nothing to get the water out of the well with. How are you going to get me this living water? But Jesus takes this a step further and tells her that anyone who drinks the water of the well is going to get thirsty again. But if you drink the living water, you'll never thirst again. So now she doesn't even care about confusion. She's just like, give me the living water. I don't want to keep doing this chore over and over again. Well, Jesus decides to test her at this point. He tells her, go back, get your husband, and come back to me. Now, here, the woman is presented with this golden opportunity to go and get the man she's living with but not married to and pass him off as her husband just so this new man with the magic water won't judge her. But she chooses honesty instead. The woman confesses that she doesn't have a husband. Well, we all know that Jesus already knew that. He says, you're right, you've had 5 husbands, and the guy you have now isn't your husband. Okay, now if I was this woman at this point, I would want to bury my head in the sand. But she just changes the subject real quick and starts talking about the differences between how Jews and Samaritans worship. Jesus tells this woman, a time will come and has now come when the true worshipers will worship in spirit and truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. Meaning it doesn't matter your reputation or your label or your gender or your age. If you have the Spirit of God inside you and you're honest with the Father, you're the type of person God is looking for. The woman tells Jesus that she knows the Messiah is coming and that he will explain everything to everyone. Jesus tells her, hey, that guy, the one that you're looking for, yeah, that's me. When she hears this, she goes into the town where no one likes her and tells of her experience. That woman, who was looked down upon and bad-mouthed because of her choices, brought several people to Jesus. Now, there have been times in my life when I felt like I just wouldn't be what God was looking for in that situation. You could say I didn't feel qualified. For example, when I went to Mexico on the mission trip, I had serious doubts that I'd be useful down there, mostly because I didn't speak any Spanish. I was worried about being able to communicate with the people we came into contact with. I kept thinking if I was going down there to share the love of Jesus, how could I tell them about it if they didn't understand me? To say I was worried is an understatement. But as it turns out, I had a really good time in Mexico and made some meaningful connections without the convenience of sharing the same language. I also have concerns about my future nursing career, whether I'll be good enough, if I can handle everything, will I make strong connections with my patients, etc. But when I look back on how I decided to become a nurse, God's influence was evident in my decision. This tells me to trust in his way, and if I go to him with the skills and knowledge that I have and will gain in the future, that he'll see me through every complication. So I guess what we can learn from all of this is to come as you are to Jesus, just as you are, because he has a plan for you, and he cares for you, no matter what, where, or who you are.